Discover the brotherhood that sharpens you. The ISI community is free for 30 days. Join now at isibrotherhood.com/community. Man, I couldn't be any more excited today to have Mike Michalowicz. This guy is a serial entrepreneur. He's a keynote speaker. Guy speaks all over the country, even some international speaking. He's the author of so many books, but my personal favorite is Profit First. And I know that probably doesn't go in alignment with everybody, but Profit First changed my personal life. That's why I like it the best. He also wrote Clockwork. He wrote The Pumpkin Plan. He wrote All In, one of his newest books recently. He's built and sold multiple multi-million-dollar companies. And he's known worldwide for teaching entrepreneurs how to simplify success. And like, if you're like me, you want to be in on that, how to simplify success. But he's helped business owners build profitable, self-sustaining companies that run like clockwork. Mike's mission is simple, yet it's very, very powerful. He said, eradicate entrepreneurial poverty and empower leaders to design businesses that serve their lives, not the other way around. Hey, listen, what if you owned a business that you built to design your freedom, but quite honestly, it's actually stealing it? You know what I mean? There's those long nights, that constant stress every single day, always on, always up. But for so many business owners, what started as a dream slowly became a drain. But today's guest, he flipped it on its head. He turned chaos into clarity and failure into frameworks that have transformed hundreds of thousands of companies worldwide. Men, if you've ever wondered how to finally build a business that gives you time, profit, and purpose, you're in the right place. This is the ISI Brotherhood Podcast, and I'm your host, Big A. Let's sharpen each other today, one at a time, with my good friend, Mike Michalowicz. Mike, how's it going, buddy?
Oh my gosh, what a wonderful introduction. You have me so excited. I'm ready to jump to the camera.
You're like, I want to hear this guy. Like, I want to hear this guy, right?
Let's be in service.
That is
Thanks
so
for having
good.
me, brother. It's so good to see you.
It's always good to see you.
I shared off the air.
Yeah.
What a great gentleman and kind brother you are. You texted me just reaching out just to see how I was doing, because you thought maybe you had a dream that maybe there was something going on, and there wasn't, that I was aware of.
Good.
But it just meant the world to me that you would take action. How many times do people have that and don't reach out? And you did. And it actually brought me to tears. So thank you.
You're a really special guy, Mike. I've interviewed you a number of times, read your books. We've promoted your books all across ISI Brotherhood. We've used your books as our focal reading countless times. You've written so many great books. How can you not do that as a small business owner? And you've just become a friend over the years. And so
Thank you, brother.
you're a real special guy to us in our community. And I'm really excited to have you here. Hey, let's jump right in, because I've got a couple of questions I wanted to ask you right out of the gate. You said that your mission is to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. What does that even mean?
Yeah, and I'll show you that's not just a mission that I say. They're on my wall.
Everywhere.
In every space I work in. I'm at my office in town, but I also have an office at home. Everywhere I work, I have that. What it is there is this gap for small business owners. The SBA identifies a small business as a company doing $25 million in annual revenue. So to me, that's big business, but they consider that small. So a small business is a company doing 25 million or less. And when we start our companies, or when we run our companies, we have a vision of financial freedom and personal freedom and impact. And yet the reality for most entrepreneurs, and research identifies it's upwards of 85% of businesses are in check-to-check survival. The owner is exhausted from the work. They're sacrificing family, friends, community to sustain this business, and it's eating them alive effectively. That gap is what I call entrepreneurial poverty, and I've lived it. I won't accept it in my life, and I won't accept it in anyone's life I come in touch with. So my mission is to resolve that, for everyone to experience the vision they have, because the world needs it.
Yeah, Mike, take us back to a point where you did experience that, though. It was draining you. It was sucking the life out of you. You weren't enjoying what you were doing. Like, I know that had to be the catalyst or the inspiration that's taken you on this journey, but what did that look like for you personally?
Yeah. So I remember a friend of mine, in my first business, I was in technical services, computer technology, and I was working days and nights exhaustively. And I bought into this hustle and grind mentality. Now, this is back in the 90s. And a friend of mine says, do you think you're a workaholic? And I said, yes, I definitely am a workaholic. And I said it with such pride and bravado. And he looks at me and I see the sadness overcome him. He's like, that's not a holic. You are an aholic, like an alcoholic or any form of alcoholism, which means it's a disease. And yet it felt so right, like a bravado.
Badge of honor. It's like a badge of honor for you. Yeah.
And I had some candid conversations with my wife during that period, and then even reflecting back on it. And, it's shameful, but I missed my kids. I didn't see my youngest son walk for the first time. I was working. I didn't see the sporting events. I was working. I remember once I was traveling through town and I hadn't seen a college friend, my roommate from freshman year, for over 25 years. And he says, hey, Mike, I happen to be in town. I'm literally next door for you. Let's get together for a quick cocktail or a coffee. And I said, John, I can't. I have to work. And how absurd is that? I couldn't afford 10 minutes for a guy I haven't seen in years who I adore. And alcoholism became a wake-up call. I don't have that as a badge of honor. I realize it's something I have to keep in check. I have this propensity to lean more and more into it, but I must cure this or at least resist it. And so I've put mechanisms and so forth in place, and I live such a more balanced life. I am so much more happy. And the greatest part, Big A, is I found that when I don't charge through and do everything, it allows me to empower my colleagues, and they can step up in ways they want to too. Not expecting them to be workaholics, but just allowing them the freedom for me not always to be inserting myself.
Yeah, man. I'm glad that you woke up. I'm glad that you no longer live that way, and you've helped so many people across the globe now get out of that dire straits that they're in. Listen, I can't have you on without talking about Profit First for a second.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I love
this book really flipped how entrepreneurs think about money. Why do you think so many small business owners today struggle with profitability? Even when the concept really seems simple, right? You own a business, you need to be profitable. Why do you think they struggle with that?
Yeah, and almost everyone starts their business with that goal in mind, that primary goal. And I more than think I know why they struggle. I'm vehement why they struggle. It's not that there's a flaw in us. It's not that you don't even have a good business or there's something wrong with the business. The fundamental problem is the foundational formula for profitability. And what we're told is your revenue minus expenses you incur results in profit. And while that makes logical sense, it doesn't make behavioral sense. We call profit the bottom line or the year end. Those are all terms for it's the last thing. And it's human nature that when something comes last, it's the manana syndrome. I don't have to worry about it now, maybe in the future. So most people treat profit like, oh, at the end of the month, was there any profit? No. Well, at the end of this quarter, we'll have it. Nothing at the end of the quarter. At the end of the year, when the tax returns, there's surely going to be something left over for me. And maybe there's a little accounting profit, but there's definitely not cash left over. And it becomes this kick the can down the road. So what's wrong is we're told that profit should be the last consideration. And what I believe with all of my soul, and we now have, I think we just surpassed 1.1 million businesses globally doing this, is that profit comes first. And in practice, every time you have a sale and that deposit comes in, we take a predetermined percentage, it could be 5, 7, 10, 12, 20, higher, as profit. Hide it from your business. And now the temptation is removed. The profit has been assured. And your business tells you what truly is available. Because if I want to have a 20% profit, I must work with these expenses to achieve that. And we were saying that Profit First doesn't fix your business. It tells you what needs to be fixed within your business. Because when I want to have a 20% profit, as an example, and I can't pay my bills, that means there's something flawed. I'm inefficient. I don't have right margins. My prices are off. I'm over in costs. But I have to start adjusting my business accordingly to align with it. At the end of the day, Big A, it's the pay yourself first principle.
Yeah.
It goes back to biblical times.
Yeah.
Tithing is taught in the Bible, right? It's biblical. Reserve for purpose first. And this is the same concept. It's just applied to business.
Honestly, Mike, when I first met you and I read the book, I wasn't on board with the concept. I've been in small business ownership for 47 years. We've owned 14 companies over that period of time. And I looked at it the way you described it initially. And I was like, nah, this can't work. Well, I want to tell you, it's revolutionized the market. And many, many people in our organization, the ISI Brotherhood, have adopted this. And they praise this ongoing.
I love it.
As a result of they're able to take the profit out and they can run their business, they can manage it. And as you said earlier, it's something that's left over at the end, but the cash doesn't align with the bottom line of your balance sheet or your profit and loss. And now they're getting to see actual cash that they can put in their pocket. And so the principles that you've laid out have just been marvelous. And so thank you for that.
Thank you.
I had to put a plug in for it because it's changed so many people's lives, right? In our organization and abroad. As you said, over 1 million companies.
We think it's about 1.1 now. You know what's so interesting, Big A, is for anyone listening in that isn't doing it yet and isn't convinced yet, I'll tell you there's one advocate for your profit that you would never think is your advocate, and they are the biggest, and it's your client. Your client wants you to be very profitable. Now, they will never say the words, can you charge me more? Can you jack up the prices? But what they will say is, I want your undivided attention. I want the best of your services or product. I want to be treated as your number one customer.
Yeah.
The only way to cater to that exact demand that they're putting on us is not to have financial worry. If I'll give a quick analogy. Imagine you have an event where you get called into a doctor and 2 doctors come out, and doctor 1 says, I'm really struggling financially. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this and still pay my bills. I need more patients. And Doctor 2 comes out and says, I'm absolutely ready. I'm extremely profitable. I'm ready to do this procedure. I have all the time in the world because you're my number one customer. Who are you going to select?
Yeah, sure.
Doctor 2. And I don't care if Doctor 2 charges 1,000 times more than Doctor 1. They're changing or saving my life. And in our businesses, we're not saving lives, but we're definitely altering lives. And the right customer wants us to be profitable because then we can alter their lives.
That's so good. You often say that simplicity scales and complexity fails.
Yeah.
Kind of dive into that. And what are the biggest complexity traps that you see entrepreneurs today falling into that keep them stuck?
It's funny. I was sharing off the air with you, a new podcast. We don't even have a name for it. A fintech called Relay. It's been wonderful and put me on the road meeting with entrepreneurs of all types. I spent time with Brian Scudamore from 1-800-GOT-JUNK, Jesse Cole, a mutual friend of ours. I spent the day with him and Emily at the stadium in Savannah, and other entrepreneurs too. And what I found is one of the greatest impedances to growth of these businesses, particularly in the early stages, was they thought the more they could sell to their clients, the more they had a captive audience with their clients, the more variability, the more money they generate. And the problem is that does work to a period, maybe to $1 million or maybe 2 or 3. But all of a sudden, these businesses stopped. And I asked them, I said, well, why did they stop? You had captive audiences, you were catering to them, you were giving them everything you got. They said, we couldn't keep all of the plates spinning. What all these businesses did was refined their offering. I remember Brian Scudamore from 1-800-GOT-JUNK said, what we did in our service calls is when a customer would call in and say, we want a truck to take away garbage, they wanted a price right on the spot, or trash, not garbage.
Right.
And he would say, well, how much do you have? And there was this back and forth. There was too much friction. They said, once they simply said, have you seen our trucks before? And they say, yes. He says, do you think it's half a truck or a full truck? They can give an estimate right on the spot. They became very efficient at doing it. And I wanted to point out, they don't do garbage, they do junk. When they tried to do other forms of rubbish, that's a Canadian term for garbage, what happened was now they had all these different ways to dispose of it. It became too complex. They have one type of truck. So when that one truck has a problem, parts and stuff are always on the ready. They don't have a lot of trucks. So reducing variability reduces all the mechanics and the complexity, and therefore you get really good at one thing. So that's the challenge I see businesses having, is they bring complexity because they think it's going to bring more money. And the shameful thing is it does for a short period. But for the long term, you have to be really capable in a really narrow area. That's the only way to scale.
Advisors Excel he's a friend of mine that owns this company in Topeka, Kansas, and they adopted that philosophy 23 years ago. They do three things. And he said there's other shiny object syndromes that come down the pike every single day. We could expand our business. We could do these things, but we do these three things really well. Anything else, we turn aside. And last year, they did $8 billion in top-line revenue by focusing on three things. He goes, yes, we could have expanded it, but it would have distracted us. The simplicity of focusing on those three things, doing a great job, has allowed us to become a multi-billion-dollar company. And this is exactly what you're teaching.
Yeah, exactly. Those fellows invited me to keynote at an event. And I said, yeah. And I didn't know Advisors Excel.
Yeah.
I said, I'd be honored. It's like, we're doing it in Vegas. And they said, we're going to go to the Sphere, which is that new location. I didn't realize they rented the entire Sphere. Like, I was like, oh, we're going to see a concert. There's going to be 10 of us together. They rented the entire building for their event. Wildly successful. Wonderful men, by the way. I know those guys pretty well now.
Yeah.
Love on their clients. And to your point, very effective at very few things. That is the key lesson to growth.
Hey, I'm Aaron Walker, founder of Iron Sharpens Iron. Every successful man needs a band of brothers to push him to grow spiritually, personally, and professionally. Each week, I meet with like-minded Christian business owners in our mastermind groups. We share wisdom, tackle challenges, and we hold each other accountable to grow, not just in business, but in life. Don't do life or business alone. Join the brotherhood that will challenge, encourage, and sharpen you. Visit isibrotherhood.com and take the first step today. Hey, I'm really excited about this new book that you were inspired to write. I want to talk about it for a few minutes.
Yeah, I got it right here. Well, this is actually, it's not even the real one because it's not out yet. This is a mock-up. So look at all the pages are blank. I did write the actual book, but this is just a little prop, I guess.
Tell me about it. Tell me what
it's called The Money Habit.
Yeah.
And what came about was I got a call from an entrepreneur who had used Profit First to great effect. And he said, I have a new challenge. Now, the company is called A1 Garage Door Services. They have 900 employees. And he says, my employees come to me occasionally asking for raises, asking if they can even borrow money. And the reason is because they need it. Because when I've tried to accommodate it, those same people will come back asking for more. Because there's only so much the company can do before it puts us in a very tenuous situation. Because the reality is my colleagues have financial stress and financial worry. And that's consistent not just with this company. That is a global phenomena. Data shows about 46 to 47% of the population at any given moment, so this second, as you're hearing these words, has a worry about money. And it's this constant drone at usually a subconscious level of how am I going to pay the mortgage, or can I afford that vacation, or whatever it is. And he said, can you teach Profit First to my team members? And that's what I did. So The Money Habit, this book is Profit First, translated to personal finances. It follows a similar behavioral tenets as Profit First, but there are a few significant differences because people that earn a salary on the upside have much more predictability. I know every week or two how much is coming into my checking account. The downside is they don't have the entrepreneurial opportunity of great climb. So I had to adjust the book for that community. Subsequently, now we have, before the book's released, 2,000 people who've deployed Profit First. The Money Habit, Profit First Personalized. And I built a system around them. The book is now coming out in January that shares the process.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting stuff. What are some of the primary differences that you've seen the difference between entrepreneurs and, just the personal finance space? This is the first book you've written too in the personal finance space.
Yeah, I've never done anything personal. It's self-help. I had a call, I'm a fan of a financial author called Jean Chatzky, and I had a call with her this morning, and it was just great. She's just affirming the experiences that I saw, but she's experienced on a much higher level. And one of the things we talked about, and I write about in this book, I call it seasonality. And what I realized is many people come to a personal finance book or resource because they're in debt. And sadly, that's a very common starting point for many people. They have debt that they feel overwhelmed by and can't manage anymore. But the thing is, they say, I have debt, which is a possessive term, which means I'm starting to identify myself as a debtor. And once you start framing yourself as a certain thing, it becomes a permanent thing. So I created this concept I call seasonality, that we are not debtors or in debt, but we are in the debt season. And the reason I use this is it changes the framing from a permanent situation to a temporary, evolving situation. So this concept of seasonality, instead of being in the debt season, we're in what I call the recover season, where we're eradicating the debt we've had. There's also a season that's called the activate season. And this is a time where we intentionally spend down our savings. Historically, that was been retirement, but now it may be major life events. It could be, hey, I have children that are turning 18. This is my last chance to go to Disneyland, and I'm going to spend down at Disneyland a lot to take my children there because I want this memory. There's also a fund season. This is the reverse of activation. It's where we're intentionally saving more for future events. And then a balance season. And a balance season is where we're intentionally spending with also intentionally saving, and it's striking that delicate chord. I think that's one of the big differences. For an entrepreneur, there's this lack of predictability. So the seasons are much harder to control or understand.
Mm-hmm.
But in something where you have a more predictable income, it's much easier to achieve and understand when we have seasonality.
Yeah, what is the difference between reading like this book and some of the other finance books out there? Like in Profit First, you take the profit first as the small business owner.
Yeah.
Is there some fundamental principle that you're teaching in the book that's contrary to normal thinking as it relates to my personal finance?
Yeah, so I base the book, so I'm very steeped in behavioral theory, neuroscience. I didn't go to college for it. I'm not degreed in it, but I love to study it. The book core premise is based upon what's called optimal foraging theory. And what this is that early man was hunters and gatherers. And the idea is when we're out for a hunt, we don't say, hey, I could use a steak tonight with a little side salad. Let's go on the hunt. No, it's like we need meat. We're going after a woolly mammoth. But once you hunt and collect it, now you have to go through preservation. So they would smoke the meat, bury the meat. There were different ways to preserve it because if you just let it sit there, it would rot away and all those effort would be wasted. So you consumed it in bits and pieces over time, and then you went on the hunt again. Modernization is we actually experience a hunt-like experience. Our money comes in tranches. For most people, we get paid weekly or bi-weekly. So a large chunk of money comes in, but we don't have preservation mechanisms. In fact, a lot of the creditors, credit cards are a prime example, leverage behavioral techniques to encourage us to spend because they make money that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that meat kind of sits out and rots very quickly. So we need a preservation mechanism. The way to do this is by leveraging your natural tendency. So when I interview audiences, and I just did a few days ago, I ask people, when it comes to your personal finances, how often are you logging into your bank account? And for most people, it's a daily situation, some people weekly. But if you do this even once a month, you're demonstrating a behavior that we can leverage. Now, we can use spreadsheets, we can use budgeting platforms, but the problem is if it causes you to redirect your natural behavior, you're less likely to do it. So we set up multiple accounts at your bank, one for your needs. This is for groceries and utilities and the rent. One for your wants, if you want to go out to dinner, these small mini luxuries, and one for the dreams, the big things. I want to go on a vacation or buy my first house or my second house. And so we pre-categorize the money. And the last thing I want to share about this is when I go out for dinner and there's not enough money for dinner, and I look at my grocery account on a debit card and say, I'll use this, I can still break the system, but I can no longer let that be subconscious. Now I know that I'm taking from my groceries to do this. Yeah.
Mm. So it's very, very much in alignment with Profit First for the small businesses.
Correct.
Categorizing the money and setting it up into those different categories.
That's right.
I like that. How do you address credit cards, debt, things like that in the book, or do you?
Yeah, no, I absolutely do. And I'll share something that sounds shocking at first glance, but maybe we'll find something profound here. I encourage people to use credit cards, but not abuse them, of course, but to use a new credit card. So one of the first things to do is get another credit card. And people are like, what? But this is what we're going to do. You get a new credit card and you write with a marker on it the word subscriptions. One of the most insidious costs that's burying Americans, but also globally now, are subscriptions. that Netflix account and the gaming account and my gym membership. Those organizations sell subscriptions because it's prudent for them. It's predictable recurring revenue. But for the consumer, it's often forgotten. Oh, I have 4 accounts. And what happens is they try to hit a threshold, maybe $19.99 a month, where as an individual, it seems very low and you ignore it. And some people spread it out. Comes out of my bank account in certain cases, this credit card for certain cases, and that credit card for another. With this new credit card, all the subscriptions take the effort. It takes a good hour or so, but get all your subscriptions on one card. Now, when the statement comes, we're going to have a pain response. You're going to see that collected subscriptions you thought cost maybe $100 a month. It's costing you $500 a month. It is a shocking moment. I've done this for myself. And it brings a subconscious awareness to a conscious awareness. And once you're conscious, you have control and authority, and you can make the hard decisions of canceling that Netflix account or changing things up.
You know, what's funny is you're preaching to the choir here, because recently Robin and I were talking, and I said, do you realize we have Hulu, Netflix, Peacock, YouTube, AT&T? I said, we're spending $600 a month to watch TV. And you don't think about it. And then you look at all these other subscriptions for magazines and car washes and gym memberships. And, you know, it's just, you are so spot on, because it's out of sight, out of mind, coming out of different accounts. Some comes out of the bank, some comes out of the credit card, some goes on the American Express. And until you pay attention, and you're getting people to pay attention.
It's $600 a month. That's $7,000 plus a year. That's a vacation.
Yeah.
So one of the early adopters of this, I put their story in the book. They did this subscription process. Same thing. They were spending hundreds a month.
Yeah.
They said, oh, I still like these programs, but I'm only going to subscribe to Netflix. I'm going to cancel everything else, and I'm going to binge on Netflix. So they became deliberate about their consumption. After 1 month of Netflix, they canceled it, and they started the next account. And they noticed that once they started doing one subscription a month, they were much more cognizant of the time they spent. They didn't sit on the couch and just kind of drone through. They were deliberate and actually freed up time for other elements of their life. And the subscription for the first 30 days, in most cases, was free. It was a trial, so their costs dropped surreptitiously.
Wow, that is so good, man. I'm so excited to get an opportunity to read that book. I want to help you promote it as well in our community. And so I think that without a question, it's going to be a home run. So, hey, just the last thing, I know that purpose perspective is big for you, and you talk about it in all your book. If there was a man listening today who's successful by most standards, you're like, hey, you've really got it going on, but he's stuck, he's restless, maybe even lonely. What would you say to help him rediscover purpose in his business and kind of reignite that passion once again?
Yeah, I feel for them, because I've been there too. And the affects of success is not the same as internal success. So what comes to mind, the predecessor or the mentor for Martin Luther King was a guy named Howard Thurman. And Howard Thurman said something that was so profound. I have it on my home office wall. And he said, do not ask what the world needs. And the context is, that's what entrepreneurs do. What do people need to consume? I need to provide that. He says, do not ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs is men who have come alive. And it's like, that's the essence of it. There is a very simple way to measure if your business is appropriate business, by seeing customer demand. But that does not align with the heart or the soul or the spirit. But when you first address what the spirit wants, the community that also needs that will raise their hand and present themselves. Be unabashedly, authentically you, because the world is starving for you when you come alive.
Wow. It is so starving for authenticity, isn't it? We need people to be that way. Mike, how can people contact you, and what is the best place to go and maybe pre-order your new book?
Oh, yeah. So the new book's called The Money Habit. It's at your favorite bookstore. You can go online retailers like Amazon or Barnes & Noble's. Bookshop.org is my favorite, because I didn't realize this. They buy their book from a local bookstore in your community and ship it to you. So it's called The Money Habit. And if you want to get any content, I have tons of free stuff. You don't even need to put your email address in. You can simply download content that I think will serve you in your entrepreneurial journey. Go to MikeMotorbike, as in the motorcycle.com. My last name is Michalowicz. It's too hard to spell, so let's not even try it. MikeMotorbike.com. All my content is there.
Yeah. Mike, man, it's been so good today. Thank you for coming and sharing these bombs with us. I mean, you've dropped many, many value bombs, and it's just been really good. Listen, guys, profit is a habit, not an event. I want you to set up your business so profit comes first, not last. I want you to build systems, not dependencies, because a business that can run without you gives you freedom to lead you where you're most gifted. And purpose fuels perseverance. And when your mission is bigger than your money, your motivation never runs dry. Man, I really love what Mike has shared today. And success isn't about hustling harder, it's about designing smarter. So this week, I want you to pick one thing from today's conversation and I want you to put it into practice because it's not going to do any good if you don't implement these practices that he shared today. Maybe it's paying yourself first. Maybe it's delegating one task that you've been hanging on to. Or maybe it's clarifying your purpose and realigning your business to serve your life, not the other way around. Remember, transformation doesn't come from information, it comes from execution. This has been the ISI Brotherhood Podcast, where we sharpen one another across all 5 pillars of life. Until next time, keep growing, keep giving, and keep living on purpose. I'm Big A. We'll see you next week.